Hey, you guys, Miss Morell here. I have your explanation of the warm-up questions for our wonky schedule week of that began last Friday, April 9th, and ends on Friday, April 16th. Um, so here you go. Number one, all of the processes listed below cause changes in the Earth's surface. Which of the following is the slowest to change Earth's surface? Um, this one's super easy because if you think about earthquakes, landslides, and volcanic eruptions, those are all pretty abrupt events. Yes, they change the Earth's surface greatly, but they happen pretty quickly. Whereas weathering is slow and happens over time. It takes a long time for things to be weathered down. So the correct answer is B, weathering. Number two, in 2017, Hurricane Harvey came ashore along the Texas coast. A hurricane negatively affects a coastline by, so there are lots of ways that hurricanes negatively affect coastal areas. But the thing that causes a lot of damage in the immediate impact of the immediate landfall is it causes beach erosion. It erodes away barrier islands that leave coasts unprotected, that allow saltwater storm surge to wash up on shore, so that once those beaches are eroded and those sand dunes are eroded, it starts a whole cascade of other negative impacts. So the first thing is that it negatively affects a coastline by causing erosion. Number three, a science teacher is performing a demonstration on how different rock types are more prone to erosion. That means more likely or easier to erode. The students discover that certain rocks, such as limestone and carbonate, erode quicker. They then add lemon juice to the water and observe how it erodes the rock quicker due to the acidity. Which of the following natural disasters is best represented by this experiment on its cause? So we are modeling erosion of rock. So the natural disaster that would be represented here could be a sinkhole, because sinkholes in the ground, they happen because material shifts underground and causes underground erosion. Around here lately, we've had some shifting of the land, and people have had to close down gas wells and things like that because it makes them unstable. So it might not be visible erosion, but the erosion happens to the bedrock underneath, which then can cause a sinkhole to happen. Number four, what two catastrophic events can be caused by human carelessness and poor planning? We can't do much about volcanic eruptions. We can't do much about earthquakes and tornadoes, but we can absolutely do things about wildfires and sinkholes. A lot of wildfires are caused by human activity, as are sinkholes. When we don't control burn and don't manage the land, when we use campfires in a way that is dangerous to the environment. There are all kinds of ways. Arson. There are all kinds of ways that wildfires can start because of human carelessness and poor planning. Sinkholes, same thing. When we remove too much water from the water table, when we have contaminants and pollutants in the water that weather and erode away the rock, we can cause sinkholes to happen. So B, wildfire and sinkholes can be caused by human carelessness and poor planning. We have no control over the other things. All right. Number five, what is a storm surge? This keeps coming up in my classes. So what storm surge is an abnormal rise in sea level that causes flooding. That sea level rise is caused by the action of a hurricane as it rotates on its axis and is moving down its path at the same time. It is literally pushing water in front of it that causes bigger and bigger and bigger waves. And those waves are then able to breach levees and erode places that they normally wouldn't be able to access because they're bigger, because of the activity of the hurricane. So an abnormal rise in sea level is a storm surge. So those are questions 1 through 5. Let's move on to the next set. What best describes the formation of a hurricane? We've talked a lot about hurricanes, and we know that their fuel is warm water. So warm water evaporates, causing water vapor. It then cools in the atmosphere, condenses, and forms clouds. As that vapor rises, moving air, that's wind. So the wind begins to blow in a circular direction, and the clouds combine, force pulls them together, and they combine, and more vapor makes it into the clouds, and so the storm forms and becomes more and more active and bigger. So the answer to describing the formation of a hurricane, it's the one that has warm water. So A. Number 2, in an ecological succession leading to the establishment of a pond community, which of the following organisms would be among the first to establish themselves? So ecological succession leading to a pond community, what would be among the first to establish themselves? So the pond community, that's going to be the producer, the simple producer. So that would be algae. As soon as algae's there, then the other organisms will come in. So they're like the pioneer species for an aquatic secondary ecological succession environment. Number 3, which statement illustrates how human activities can most directly change the dynamic equilibrium of an ecosystem? So what dynamic equilibrium means is balance in an ecosystem, but recognizing that what means balance sometimes changes, but the ecosystem is able to adapt. So which of these activities can most directly do that? Well, the only one of these things that is a human activity is C. Water pollution causes a decrease in fish populations in a river. When we did stream tables, we talked about all the ways that sediment in the water can affect fish populations. And there were lots of ways. Fish are very vulnerable to changes in conditions in the water. These other 3 things, while they might be improved or affected by human activity, like we know with global warming caused by human activity, we have more hurricanes. C is the only one that is directly a human activity affecting an ecosystem. Number 4, a new island is formed by a volcanic action, may eventually become populated with biotic communities as the result of, and that would be the process of ecological succession. So that would be primary succession. So soil would have to form, and then you would have your lichens, and then you would have your grasses and weeds, and then you'd have small shrubs and small animals. And that whole process of developing and populating an ecosystem would take place. So the answer is 4D, the process of ecological succession. And then finally, number 5, trees growing on the edge of a river's meander are most likely to fall into the river due to, well, what would happen and cause that is anytime trees fall over and are uprooted and stuff, a lot of times it's because of erosion. So trees growing on the edge of the meander will fall into the river if they are on the inside of the bank. If they're on the outside of the bank, they will not fall into the river. They'll fall onto the ground. So there you go. Erosion on the inside of the meander. That's it. That is your warm-up summary for the week. If you have any questions, please see your science teacher. Have a great day.